Come on, Soda Pop, let's go.
Okay, unless there's any other comments by the committee, this meeting is adjourned. And thank you very much for attending, everybody. Thank you very much.
And I will say one thing, I did talk kind of on a sidebar conversation with Shannon Austin, who's with City Engineering, and she wants to also consider setbacks from intersections of two arterials. So we haven't talked about setbacks at all, really, but
I think the
throwing it out
Rochester
there.
ordinance address that.
Yeah.
Rochester address that setbacks. I think that's
From the right of way.
From the intersection
Obviously, it's
of
just
two arterials.
from the traffic safety related issue.
And that if they ever widen the street, they end up
This is
moving
what
that
they should have been
sign.
having
Yeah.
as a discussion
That's what we really get.
during the meeting.
So
When they encroach
they
in
would
the
like-
right of way, then we come back and we end up paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay them.
To move them.
And so when we widen that at a later date, we're responsible for the relocation of
Moving their
that sign.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
their stuff.
Yes, paying for a loss.
Yeah, so I would agree that setbacks
Paying lost
should be.
revenue.
You know, I know that we addressed a lot of things.
That's what
Everybody
there's
agrees.
revenue.
We addressed a lot of things this morning that are not necessarily going to resolve our immediate issue of keeping that one that's isolated there at 41st and Sycamore. But obviously, if there's other parts of the ordinance that we feel that need to be tweaked, even
Yeah, and like
outside
this
that
kind of
objective,
stuff, I will incorporate that into the
this
next
would be an
draft.
appropriate time to address it and get it all done in one shot.
Yep.
As much as possible,
Yeah.
rather than.
And so that's why we'll have some options for you next time that you can react to and say, well, I like this, but I don't like that, and then hopefully one more meeting and then we'll be done. That's what my hope is. Now, next time I will not be here, but Mike Cooper will be providing the facilitation.
And we can still do what I talked about, kind of a matrix or whatever that shows, if we were to put a distance from a sensitive use
How about this,
provision
how
in
about if
there.
I give you maps and do it visually rather than doing the analysis, because you're talking about thousands of parcels.
Okay.
And
The assumption
I think
is,
that-
I've already done it with Chris Anderson, but we haven't done the table. But when I did it prior to the council informational, in proximity to residential, they're all within 150 to 200 feet. I mean, you drive up, as Greg said, you drive up Minnesota and 12th Street, they're all a parcel away.
or just
They're right there.
do this, drive not on Minnesota,
Yeah.
but up
Right.
Dakota or Spring.
They're all legal non-conforming at that point. So if
Well,
you go 300
right.
feet, which is
See,
what
that
you
sounds
agree.
totally unreasonable if we were to suggest something
Yeah.
that makes everything non-compliant.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
totally
So,
unreasonable.
only way you could do it is say they can't be within 100 feet. And
Yeah,
you go,
that-
then it'd be legal, because you'd have to go down to 100 feet. And you'd go, well, that doesn't help at all.
One,
Right.
You have to go 300 feet. Well, at 300 feet, they're all legal non-conforming. So you go, well, how about 200 feet? Then you're gonna go, well, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
I mean,
what if it
you're really
read
trying to solve
unless
the
in
problem,
an
go 300 or
established
60.
corridor?
I-
You know, separation
I
from
have a
residential
real
unless it's in
problem
an
with
established
that
corridor.
because it's not equitable. Why would someone who lives in the core have to endure a billboard and someone who lives out in a new developing area not? Why is out in the developing areas more sensitive than in the core?
It's not that
It
we're
absolutely
sensitive.
is not.
It's just that we're smarter now.
Well,
Well,
and considering some of these cities talk about the non-conforming, I mean, it's fine.
it's workable to change the
Yes.
regulations and then still have non-conforming.
Right, and how Rapid City does that is they forego the spacing criteria because their real issue is to get rid of the substandard billboards. So they say you can replace them as long as you bring it up to standard for size, for height, you use a monopole design, you do all that, and you make the sign look better, then we don't care about the spacing criteria. And so that is how Rapid City allows it. There's other ones that say, no, it comes down, you get a credit, and when another availability, one that will meet the spacing criteria comes along, you get to cash in that credit.
Now but isn't it also conceivable that 25 years from now, 50 years from now, that we're going to have newly created or established corridors that are not there today because of just the natural change of the landscape? For instance, it was all residential as I grew up as a kid. Now you go along and it's commercialized, but you do have homes just directly behind them.
Right. And the direction is to do these nodes and appropriately size the amount of commercial based on what highways are going to be planned for the future. You know, Highway 100, that'll change the dynamic. Having another beltway ring road around the city, that'll change things for sure.
Well, in general, the city defines which streets are going to be arterials fairly early because they're typically section lines.
They're section line roads.
That's the reason I kind of like the arterial theory is because then as you're purchasing your property, you know how far away you are from an arterial and the potential for a future billboard if those two elements are tied, as opposed to a corridor, which is assigned at a later date and you never know if the street you're building near will be a corridor or not. You know,
The people who live at 85th in Minnesota did not realize that 85th was a section line road. So in theory, you know, let the buyer beware is a good mentality, but I think generally people have difficulty envisioning what something is going to be in the future. You can put it on the maps, you can change the color, but I don't think that the vision is there
Uses and forms
for
can change over
understanding
time.
that
Right.
a section line road is going to be heavier volumes of traffic, always. And 85th is a section line road.
right.
This is
You know?
all informal. You guys can add anything you'd like to in the discussion if you've got any comments
Yeah,
or anything. I mean,
absolutely.
This is just all.
Well, that's why we stayed.
Yeah, so,
Well, to follow up on those comments, I guess my concern would be is that the city did permit our single-family homes there. And then
Absolutely.
we were permitted, over 76 of our homes were permitted by the city of Sioux Falls prior to them changing in the 2035 plan. And so I appreciate what you're saying, but the city made a change. And so we want to work with you. We're not here to, you know, oppose you or anything like that. We want to move forward and work as positively as we can because we are a developing area. And just as Dana pointed out, just because there's, when you were speaking about the 100 versus 200, so are we going to continue to stay on that track, which is not a positive thing for development, I believe, anymore? But are we going to just keep doing that, or can we make it better? I think that's what Dana's point was. We can do better. So
Yes,
I think
I
we need
agree.
to have that attitude. Let's make it the best it can be. So that's why people are here, and that's why we're so appreciative of your time.
absolutely.
Rather than defending the old policies, let's make them better. And I know there's been so many hours put in this. Greg has put endless hours on shapes and things like that. So I think with the wealth of information in this room for developing areas, existing areas, et cetera, we can make improvements. And that's the reason we're going to be
That's why
attending
we're
your
here.
Yep,
meetings.
That's
Absolutely.
And
absolutely why we formed the group.
Yep.
So taking yours as an example, that 300 feet's not real far away if the billboard was put right there. So, I mean, are you looking, do you think a bigger separation distance from, or would you just like to just have corridors, do you think? Or, you know, I mean, we'd have to make it a pretty big number probably to, and I am for that, would, you know, to get a billboard sufficiently away from a single family home.
Yeah.
That it's not gonna be, you know, or maybe you have corridors and then 85th is not a corridor and you don't have them at all.
Yeah,
Right.
that's,
You know, there's great concerns about the off-premise issue in the sense that, for example, in that development out there, Walmart does not own those outlots there, but that's the main entrance for Walmart. So being a sensitive area, single-family homes, over 100 single-family homes there, we just want you to be aware of the implications of that particular site there. So, you know, we don't have all the information either. You know, we'll be relying on all your expertise to come up for what's best for the whole, for the neighborhood, for the businesses there, etc. So,
And there are also existing homes that have been there for a long time on 85th Street on the south side of 85th, and a bunch more being built.
yeah.
So it's not just the north side of 85th that has some great, it's
Anita,
the south side.
Has Walmart or the developer approached you at all as far as doing anything special, you know, landscaping wise on your property at all to mitigate the intrusion that their development will have?
actually, there's litigation going on right now because those issues of signage, size of building, hours of operation, lighting, that's what is traditionally held in a conditional use permit hearing, and that did not take place. And there is a lawsuit going on about that right now. So we don't have any particulars because that never took place. Thank you, Dana.
Okay.
They haven't come up with that.
Are there any restrictions on how the bar on a roadway, the signs could be?
There are setbacks,
Okay.
and included,
That-
the setbacks is that's what we call,
Minimum, but what about a maximum?
no,
There isn't, okay.
no.
And then I kind of asked this before, but ditches, you just
Well,
can't
you know, I'm just thinking in the.
really distinguish anything from
So there
ditches.
will be other.
So this is
along
The
this
safer,
area.
as Danny said,
You
the
know,
safer route
even
is
if we increase it to, you know, 75,
treat them
there's nothing.
billboards.
Sign company from.
So like down by Walmart there,
Yeah.
a digital small. You know,
Okay.
Those outlets are probably.
Come on, Soda Pop, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on.